I said it. The Lanamance is bad. It's a bad romance. I'm going to try not to make those kinds of references again. The best of writers in video games have a real tough time making romances believable and interesting, let alone worth our time. And there's quite a few factors that go into this. Unlike real life, there is an incredibly short window to make anything happen, let alone a romance. And with all things in video games, we know everything is compressed. You find the bad guys faster than you should, the bad guys find you faster than they should, and you progress through those romances at warp 9. But why do I say the Lanamance is bad? Let's start with a little background. My Jedi Sentinel didn't romance Kira, didn't romance anybody, and never took a flirt option, and took nary a dark side point through the entire class story. And as this is a story, I wanted to try something different, which ultimately is the reason I usually take romance options with a character. It's a different path, some new content, and perhaps if it were done really well, it would provide not only reactivity, but perspective on my past choices. So I turned my primary tune in SWTOR into Lana fodder. To be clear, this is just not me being mean to Lana, though I suppose there's valid reasons for doing that too. No, it's because she is the character that you spend the most time with. Class story romances don't show up forever. Theron comes and goes. Lana is the one character that is almost always present, whether she's telling you what to do or not. And so she has the most opportunities to be a good or crummy romance. Now back to our Lanamancer. When my main man meets Lana on Manon, it's not long until a flirt option is presented, and I take it. Thing is, this isn't exactly a subtle flirt option. Let's pause here for a little reflection on real life. How you talk to someone at a bar, a nightclub, is very different than how you're going to talk to them in the office. And yes, as I said before, these things have to move quickly because it's a game, but still, normally you're going to start off with going out to a few lunches, wandering by their office or desk every once in a while. But standing in a room where there's other people and starting right on off with, I'm sure we're going to spend a lot of time together and get to know each other, really seems out of place, if not a tad forward. So that flirt bugged me right from the beginning. Now, maybe we can chalk it up to this guy has no real experience flirting with chicks, and so he's a dork, and he just doesn't know what to say. But if that's the case, great. I'm playing a dork who doesn't know how to talk to women. And let's not forget, neither of these two are teenagers. They are grown adults. As that first dialogue on Manon progresses, Theron leaves, and you have another, even more inappropriate flirt line, essentially saying, "Hey, Lana, we're alone now. You don't have to go." Now, mind you, none of these flirts have been reciprocated by Lana. The conversation quickly turns back to the information her and Theron have been digging up, and you move along. And this type of exchange typifies flirting with Lana. The PC makes some sort of out-of-context flirt. Lana may or may not acknowledge it, and then continues on delivering intelligence information or plan. I'm pretty sure this kind of behavior would get you some sort of a conversation with HR. It's amazing how many of these flirt options come up when you're having a conversation with 4 or 5 people in the room. Start thinking after a bit, dude, control yourself. You're a Jedi. Act like. And Rishi doesn't give us any better flirts. I mean, how many mission briefings do you have to interrupt with garbage flirt lines? And when you once again meet her on Ziost, she's moved on, it seems, and is a bit dismissive. But that doesn't stop our dude. Keeps right on and going. Now, maybe you're saying, there's no reason to hate it at this point. Sure, it's a little weird, but yeah, it's rushed. We're in a game. We got to move on. We got to make things happen. And those are perfectly valid points. But the fact that you don't have Lana initiating any of this makes it an odd one-way street. She's not rejecting you, but she's not initiating it. The PC's walking a pretty fine line between flirting and creepy. Things get a little better on Zakul, because at least generally it's just PC and Lana. Sometimes they're serious, sometimes they're playful. It just doesn't seem quite as out of place. But for my part, I never felt a connection between these two. And while not every conversation turns back to an info briefing after some retarded flirt line, you still are flirting in the middle of a briefing room, more often than not. And to top it off, you're often treated like a moron by Lana. By the time you're on Osis, the writers have given up any pretense of your character actually being in a position of authority and knowing anything. Whether it's Theron or Lana or someone else telling you what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, you're just flying around doing somebody's bidding, initiating nothing. And Lana doesn't help this by usually being the one to tell you what you're going to go do. Couple that with you're supposed to also have a romance with this person, and by the time you're done in a mission going, "Shut up, Lana, I hate you," and then you get some flirt line, it just doesn't work for me. And really, once you've completed Nathma and all of that Zildrog nonsense, you propose, and unfortunately, like every other romance BioWare does, once you get there, you might as well shut that sucker down because you don't get much else. It seems like they forget you're in a romance and don't try to continue anything. But let's take this one step farther. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I took the Lana romance to see what kind of changes would happen to me or Lana. After all, this is your basic East meets West. CIA spy meets KGB. In the end, you're still CIA guy and she's still the KGB. Nothing changes. Neither of you grow together or apart, and there's absolutely no change in character. She's clearly dark side. A light side Jedi, there should be some back and forth. If you take a dark side option, it's clearly not because of her influence. At no point does she ask you to take a dark side option because of your relationship, nor do you push her to the light side. And while I certainly didn't expect major changes in the character, I mean, this is EA BioWare at this point, you ultimately hope that somewhere in there they would start pulling on threads, making things a little more interesting. And Lana was the perfect vehicle to make this happen. There are just so many missed opportunities, especially between Jedi and Sith. And now it's just boiled down to, well, we got a new piece of story content. There may or may not be a flirt option that may or may not be in an appropriate place. I feel to make this romance feel like anything within the game, you have to do one of two things. Number one, not really give a flip, which begs the question of why do it other than just, well, I'm cranking through some different content that somebody else didn't do in my list of tunes. Or you have to invest a whole lot of headcanon into this. And I personally don't like doing headcanon because it's headcanon. One dialogue line from BioWare wipes all of that out. I'm sure we've all read people on the forums having a fit that their headcanon was destroyed. Ultimately, you gotta go with what the writers give us. And I do keep skipping the chances to cut the romance off, in the vain hope that sometime down the road it's gonna pay off. And I do have an Inquisitor that I also romanced with her, hoping that there would be something different since he's a dark side Sith. But there's not. So maybe he'll do the breakup. As I've said, I like experiencing the different content. And I've done this in other games where I will do a romance just to do the breakup scene. And in some cases, say Dragon Age Origins, it's really worth it. Heck, in TOR, if you start a romance with Risha with your smuggler and then break it off just before it solidifies, that's one of the best scenes the smuggler's got. And that brings me to my last point. Some characters get away with this sort of behavior. I mean, we all expect our smuggler to say just about anything at any time, especially if he's flirting with a pretty girl. And a Sith, well, they don't have any rules, so do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it. And here we are again. One size does not fit all. And our Jedi certainly deserves better, and frankly, so does every other character. Tell us what you think. Are you pro Lanamance? Leave us a comment below. And don't forget to like and subscribe.